Rising up the much anticipated Alberta by-elections. Okay, Graham, an interesting incident reportedly happened at Monday's news conference to announce the by-elections and PC candidates. Alberta Party leader, Calgary Elbow candidate Greg Clark says he was removed from the event because it was an internal PC matter, not government business. What do you make of that?
Yeah,
shenanigans, election shenanigans?
This was pretty petty on the PC's part. Yeah, it was a party function, but of course it's still public business, first of all. And even though Prentice is the premier, he was announcing, of course, by-elections for his party. He's a candidate, so he couldn't make the announcement in a government building because it's actually a party process for himself in terms of him announcing his candidates and who's running. But you know, they should have left Clark alone and just let him stand there quietly in the back of the room. They look petty and vindictive by kicking out a quiet, well-respected candidate for the Alberta Party. And I thought it was petty on their part.
Janet, what do you make of the optics?
Well, you know, I did a tweet yesterday and I said I thought it was uncool that they were announcing by-election dates at a party event. And to Graham's point, he was announcing candidates, and I guess that is partisan, but I don't know, it's just that blurring of the lines between party business and government business that have really left people kind of disappointed in the PC government. So maybe there is an opportunity here for the PCs to do things a little bit differently, and one of the things they could have been different is just be a little classy and let him stand there. I don't think Greg Clark's known for outbursts or anything odd. So poorly handled, poor way to kick it off, and maybe the PC should just soberly think about this and look for some other places where the lines are blurred and take the high road and try to unblur these lines.
All right, Rob, let's talk about some of the other opposition parties, more specifically Alberta New Democrats. They have a busy month ahead, not only with the by-elections, but a leadership race of their own. Good for profile, bad for timing.
Yeah, I think it is awkward timing for the New Democrats. I mean, I think maybe in Edmonton they're the strongest party other than the PCs, but I don't know how much they'll give Stephen Mandel trouble. In Calgary, I don't think the New Democrats will be much of a factor. And for that matter, I don't know that the Liberals will be much of a factor. I think certainly it's going to come down to the Tories and the Wildrose. And then in Calgary Elbow, you've got this X factor of Greg Clark and what he represents. I think the Tories calling attention to him this way and kicking him out of that event, and you know, it almost makes it seem like maybe they're worried. And even for the Wildrose, I think they want it to be between them as the opposition, that they're the party that you vote for if you want to send a message, versus the Tories. And I think maybe they're a little worried that Greg Clark could be a wild card factor here. It is interesting. You're sort of putting this in the hands of the voters of Calgary Elbow and saying, well, now you can make or break this party. You can elect Greg Clark and really change Alberta politics, or you can reject him, and maybe with him, so goes the Alberta Party. So I don't know if that ups the stakes or changes how voters might think in Calgary Elbow. It's an interesting factor that's not really going to be a factor in the other ridings.
Graham, what's it going to take for the opposition parties to build their own momentum?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting that they're all, in a sense, playing the same card. They're saying, if you get a problem with the government, vote for us to send a message to the government. Hearing that from the Wildrose. But especially in a riding like Elbow, that could play against the opposition. If you have, and you do have some very strong candidates in Calgary Elbow, for example. And if that could split the anti-government vote and allow Gordon Dirks, who's a candidate there for the PCs, to go up the middle, because people are so angry at the government, they're all splitting their vote. So it's up to the opposition to try to make a better case for why they should be. But I think that Rob's right. It's going to be more of a fight between the PCs and the Wildrose. NDP is not really a factor in Calgary, and the Liberals were a factor in Calgary Elbow at one point, but not anymore, I don't think.
All right, 20 seconds each for polling the pundits. Janet, you're up first. Who's up in the polls? Who's down?
Well, pollsters are up. We're going to have a lot of fun trying to predict these by-elections. So yeah, I think pollsters and pundits, you know, we're up this week, and in terms of who's down, in terms of who down, I said Prentice was up last week. I'm going to say he's down this week. The Greg Clark incident was unfortunate. There's sort of a new CBC story about some questionable sole source contracts to a key advisor of his at Navigator. So didn't get off to the best start for this by-election.
All right, Rob, you have 15 seconds.
I'll just be quick and say Ken Hughes is definitely down. What a bizarre ending to what's been really a strange year for him. And I think given the expectations some had for him, probably the end of a very disappointing political career.
All right.
Yeah, I would say Prentice is actually up. He's managed to maintain the momentum and keep to a certain agenda and seize the agenda. And I agree with Rob that Down can use as a bizarre way to end his career in politics.
All right, folks, thank you kindly for setting up for by-elections. That's Graham Thompson, columnist with the Edmonton Journal, Janet Brown, Calgary-based public opinion consultant, and Rob Breckenridge, talk show host with News Talk 770.